former Royals, Angels pitcher.
Oh, let me introduce him
on
here.
the line. Oh, you want to introduce him?
I need to introduce him here.
All right, you go.
All right? On the line waiting for us, 14 years in Major League Baseball as a pitcher with the Kansas City Royals, 1 year with the Angels, World Series champion in 1985, played from 84 to 96 with the Royals, 97 with the Angels, two-time All-Star, 1988 went 20-8, led the league with 35 starts, 8 complete games. This man is a stud. Great competitor, wonderful man on the color
with the tease. Who we got?
With the Angels. We have with us Mark Gubicza from the Kansas City Royals, California Angels at that time. Welcome to the show, Mark Gubicza. I cannot believe that you're on the phone with us. Welcome. How are you today?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? How's everyone going? What's going on there tonight?
We're having a party, man, and it just got better that you're on the phone, G.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man. That's cool.
Yeah, we're glad to talk to you. We're longtime Angels fans here. I've been doing the show here for about 5 years, and big fan of yours. My father, I'm if you don't know, this is my father sitting across from me, David, and then I'm his son. We've been doing the show for a while, and both Angels fans, and especially my father, been a big, follow of you through the times through with the Angels and with the Royals, and we're just glad to have you on the show. And thanks for taking the time.
Hey, no problem, man. This is a fun time of the year. All the rumors and stuff getting headed into the winter meetings coming up on December 11th. So hopefully, some moves being made before too long by the Angels.
I hope so. What is the situation with the Angels? Every year, the rumors with Mike Scioscia, should he go, should he stay? Are they going to go in the free agent market again? Are they going to try and bring up from the minors? They had a pretty good season. They battled all year long. They battled some injuries. What direction do you think the Angels are going to go? Are they going to get in the free agent market? Are they going to get in the bidding for this kid from Japan, Otani, I think his last name is? What direction do you think they're headed?
Well, first, even addressing the whole thing with Mike Scioscia, I thought he did probably his best job as far as managing, consider all the injuries to the pitching staff. And, Trouty was out for 35-plus games, some key other injuries. But, they hung in there all the way till the end trying to get to that second wild card spot. But, Josh Hamilton's money's off the books right now. That's huge for Artie and Billy Epler. So
thank God.
That's going to be big. And then there's another quite a few veterans that are making pretty good money that won't be back next year also. So there's money to spend. I think Billy's going to spend the money. Artie wants to win. The importance of building a team around and having some quality players around Mike Trout, Justin Upton back. And he agreed to a deal that it's team-friendly, in my opinion, the fact that he backloaded the salary. So even though he's getting a ton of money, and it's hard to say it's ever team-friendly when you're making that kind of money, but he was able to push some of that money, the guarantee money, back later on in the contract. So it allows, Billy to make some key acquisitions this winter to get back in position where not only you get there as a wild card, you want to go out there and knock off the defending world champs, the Houston Astros. And they played some really good games against them last year. They were just a little bit stronger with a little bit better, pitching staff going.
Can I ask Gooby a question real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm a Dodger fan. What's up? This is Renee, by the way, Gooby.
He's our producer.
Hey, that's all right.
Hey, I'm a Dodger fan, so I wanted to ask you, who were you rooting for in this past World Series? Were you rooting for the Dodgers or were you rooting for the Astros?
You know what? It's a little known fact that actually I retired as a Dodger because after my year with the Angels, I signed a minor league deal and worked out all the way up to the last day of winter workouts at Dodger Stadium before heading on down at that point to Vero Beach, and I decided at that point my arm was never going to be able to be the same, and retired as a Dodger. So
wow,
I think the whole energy level of Southern California, when because the Dodgers got to the World Series, you couldn't help but to root for your brethren down here in Southern California. That's a Dodger. So yeah, I was going, even though I'm an American League player and obviously working in the American League now with the Angels, you still kind of lean that way. Normally I would. But I think because of the Dodgers and the energy that brought to the entire region was pretty cool to be able to see.
I agree. Okay, this is going to segue into my next question. I'm glad you brought that up, Renee, because I talked to Josh, and we were talking about this whole seventh game starting situation and what have you. You come from an era where the studs pitched, and they pitched late into the games, and they were proud to pitch complete games, and the league was based on that. In the World Series, your number one starter started Game 1, Game 4, and Game 7, even if it was on 2 days rest. Now, the league has gone to analytics. The league has gone to one pitcher, one pitch, take him out,
Innings limits,
blah, blah, blah. Being, as you come from that era where you took the ball and you pitched into the 8th inning, and you took pride in doing that. It's changed so much. Would you have started Kershaw in that Game 7 with the short rest? Now, I know with the format, 2 games, 3 games, 2 games, the travel time's a little different. You don't even get, quite the same rest that you did going 2-1-1-1-1, 2-2-1-1-1. But would you have started Kershaw on 2 days rest, or is this something that's just not going to happen in the way the game is played today?
I think, and I'm a huge fan of Dave Roberts. I've known Dave for a long time. I think he made the right decision. It's tough to come back and start another game on 2-day rest. And when you got to look back on what happened with Kershaw during the regular season, dealing with the back issue. That's back-to-back seasons of that. So anybody's ever had any kind of a back problem, you know how that could kick in at any moment. And he threw great in relief. I'll tell you, Kersh was unbelievable. He's one of my favorite players in the game. But that being said, you expected Darvish to deal. I mean, his stuff is electric, but he got hit again by the Astros. And if you look at what he, prior to the World Series, his career numbers against the Astros were outstanding.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing that was surprising about the whole scenario for the Dodgers. When they won Game 6, I thought for sure, the Astros were in deep, deep trouble. But they came right out and scored in that first inning. They did something un-Astro-like in which they manufactured a run. They hit a couple of baseballs to the right side of the infield. Both these teams, I mean, the Dodgers had plenty of opportunities, to drive in some runs. When you hit 4 batters like McCullers did in Game 7, yet you don't score. I mean, instead of putting the ball in play, you're trying to hit home runs. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. It didn't work in Game 7 for the Dodgers.
Right.
I was, I'm kind of with you. I wasn't really on Roberts for starting Darvish, and I really don't think he pitched that bad. Like you said, they manufactured run. They hit ground balls. Bellinger threw a ball away. In the second inning, they hit ground balls. Now, I'm drawing a blank on the name, but when he came up for the second time against Darvish, the guy that hit the home run, Springer, okay,
yeah,
do you pull
that
him
was surprising.
at that point, that you let him face him again when things are not going horrible? But if this guy tags him, the hottest hitter in the league, the hottest hitter on the Astros, do you let Darvish face him again? I know you don't want to put Roberts, on blast, but would you have let him pitch to him?
Well, that's the beauty of a Game 7 scenario. Everybody's available, even if you pitch, the day before, and we saw that even with Hershiser back in the day in the world. You saw that with Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling in the World Series Game 7s. When you get to that point, everyone feels good because you know what? You have plenty of time to rest after that game. So I think that it comes down to you got to go with a gut feeling, and a lot of times managers don't do that anymore. That's the one criticism on my part. You get so caught up, and you mentioned the analytics that, third time through, boom, out of the game, like what happened with Rich Hill in his first start. I mean, I think you got to go with a feel, and his feel must have been that Darvish had the stuff. If he didn't throw a pitch in the strike zone against Springer, he would get him out. But the mistake was he threw him a strike, and Springer was just so hot, considering how bad he was in Game 1. He was unreal the rest of the series.
Yeah, I totally agree with Mark because Roberts could have started Alex Wood. He had that option in his back pocket to start Alex Wood. He was on 5 days rest. He almost, he had a perfect game through 6 innings in Game 4.
Right.
So as a manager, I can understand how those decisions are so difficult.
And everybody's second guesses. Everyone's going to play the Monday morning quarterback
it's easy
on
to say
everything.
what if. So.
Gooby, sticking with, again, we got Mark Gubicza on the line with us. Sticking with the World Series, you won your World Series in 1985 with the Royals here. And to see them win it a few years ago, what did that mean to you, seeing as how that organization, after you guys won that World Series, kind of went through some tough times there for a few decades, you could say. What was it like to see that team win the World Series once again?
It was really great. It really started back in 2014 when they had that great World Series. Speaking of Game 7s against the San Francisco Giants. Oh yeah. Just on I don't know whim, I decided with my wife. We said let's just go fly back for Game 6 and 7 in Kansas City in 2014. She hadn't been back there in a while. 2 of our 2 oldest kids were born in Kansas City. So we said, let's just fly back. We went back on our own, bought our own tickets, and we just sat in the stands, and we got our own hotel room for Game 6 and 7. Tell you what, it was magical. It felt like it was back in 1985. And prior to that, 84, we made the playoffs, and, obviously in the 70s, they were 3 years in a row. In 80, they went to the World Series. So they were used to getting to the postseason, and all of a sudden that was it.
Yeah.
From 85 to 2014, and then to see them beat the Mets the following year, And anybody growing up in Philly always loves when any New York team gets beaten in a World Series. So I was pretty pumped up about that.
I was pumped because they beat the Giants, and I hate the Giants being a Dodger fan, so I was rooting for the Royals.
Okay, now we're going to go back a few years here, Mark. We're going to lighten it up just a little bit. Coming from, I'm a couple years older than you. Okay, I need to know, at any time, did you sport a mullet?
Oh yeah. You know the thing that's crazy is every baseball card shows that. But we never used the word mullet back there. We just had that cool hair. That's all. It wasn't mullet. It was a cool hair look.
I love it. I knew you had. Okay, you were 22 years old back then. You played in one of the most epic. You were there at one of the most epic World Series ever. 7-game series against the Cardinals. You guys are down 3-2. You're in the 9th inning, and Don Denkinger blows the call at first base. What is the feeling?
Safe, by the way.
What's that?
Safe. He's still safe at first base. George Orta beat it out.
I mean, come on. George Orta and Dane Org. I mean, those are the two heroes of that World Series. I mean, how was it?
That's the beauty of the world. That's
Isn't
the beauty
it?
of the postseason.
Yeah.
That's why the guys that you know, even the Lemkes of the Atlanta Braves, the guys that you randomly don't think will win a World Series end up doing it.
Craig Counsell.
Your focus as a pitcher is on the Justin Turners of the world. And when somebody else comes through against you, that your focus goes away a little bit. You think, okay, I can get through this batter. Lo and behold, you make a mistake and they make you pay for it.
Okay, Steve Balboni. Give me his personality, man, because I see him as just a crazy. Just stay away from him because he's just a redneck crazy son of a gun.
One of the coolest dudes I've ever met. He's a Massachusetts guy, quiet as can be, but if you play with Frank Sinatra, though, he's on top of a table singing Frank Sinatra. I always look at him because I'm always a headbanger, and I'm listening to Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and all that stuff. And he's just chilling out, quiet as can be, but all of a sudden you put Frank Sinatra on, man, and I'll tell you what, he could sound just like Frank at that moment. That was pretty cool.
Out of here. Hey, now you played with the two slowest first basemen in the history of baseball, Balboni and Willie Mays Aikens, right?
Willie was just before me. My first training, yeah, my first spring training in '83, he looked up at me and he goes, "Hey, what's your name?" He called me Gubicza. I said, "Well, you're big enough. You can call me anything as long as you can say my name at all. I'll be happy with that one."
That is just so awesome, Jeff. You had a question?
No, Mark, this is Jeff, a friend of the show here. Just had a quick question for you. There's a rumor that Steve Balboni was the slowest player in the history of Major League Baseball. Can you either confirm or deny that?
No. He was. You know what? He's and also he was a pretty good fielding first baseman too. I mean, a lot of people because he hit the home runs and he was just a strong guy. He actually moved pretty good, and he was unbelievable picking low throws over first base. So very, very underrated. He had the home run record for home runs in a single season for the Royals all the way up to this past season when Mike Moustakas finally broke that record. That was back in '85. To last that long, through all that crazy time in baseball, as far as home runs flying out, that he had that record for a lot of years.
I loved that guy.
Now, Mark, you played with some very notable players such as Bo Jackson, to name one, George Brett. Can you give me one of your
Quinsonberry? Remember Dan Quinsonberry?
Can you give me a good story about one of those two? Do you have any good stories? I mean, especially George Brett, with just how fiery he was, and Bo Jackson, how fun was that to watch? How fun was he to watch, and just to look at him as from an athlete point of view, just from a human specimen. The guy just had to be unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because somebody was just referenced about that just the other day on Twitter again, and I said he was the best athlete I ever seen. I mean, the things he did on the baseball field, I just laughed. I mean, it was like one of these things where you shouldn't be able to hit a ball that far. You shouldn't be able to throw a baseball from a wall into Kingdom and throw out Hal Reynolds at the plate.
Right?
Oh my
God!
Right?
That's
ridiculous.
And then go literally. A lot of guys time. I shouldn't say this too much, but guys would time their leaps out in the outfield to make a play diving on the ground. He would literally fly through the air like a non-human being and catch balls. I mean, guys would time their dives now. He would just fly through the air and make catches. And then I would go to, he gave me sideline passes every single Raider game at the Coliseum, so I used to go there and watch it. And to hear the stories from the football players, the same thing, and Bob Golick was there, and you go, this guy is not a human being, and Howie Long, and all those guys just watch him and marvel how fast and strong he was. And tell you what, he was awesome to be around. And George Brett, I lived with him my first couple of years. He let me stay at his place until he found me in a condo out there in Saberhagen. We lived together with him.
Nice.
Tell you what, he was the most competitive human being I ever met. He was quiet, but every once in a while when he struggled, for a prolonged period of time as far as swinging the bat, he would have one of his snaps, and next thing you know, he'd be like 10 for his next 11.
Mm-hmm.
He was just, that's why, I always marveled how, even if he did ground ball to the pitcher, he was running as hard as he could down to first base every time because he figured. And I always ask him, "Why are you running so hard down there?" He goes, "The one time he'll throw it away, and I'm jogging down there, I'll be the most miserable human being in my life." So he ran out every single thing, played hard, and if you challenge him, and Goose Gossage knows this with the best fastball, he's going to hit it far.
I love it, man. You came, I think, a couple years, about 3 or 4 years after the Pine Tar incident. That was the most insane thing I've ever seen. But let's move on a little bit.
Okay, good.
Okay, we're gonna have a little fun with you, Mark.
Okay.
And congratulations, by the way, your daughter got married. That's a wonderful thing.
Oh, congrats.
I saw that.
that
Congratulations
means
to you.
I'm getting old. That's all.
And a little poorer because I'm still paying off my daughter's wedding.
And I got one. I got one that's about 10 years away, but I know it's probably coming. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
We're talking with Mark Gubicza. I can't even believe he's on the freaking
yes. Thanks
phones
for
with
taking
us
the
right
time.
now. I'm really just so stoked to talk to you. Favorite band?
Ooh.
Well, Led Zeppelin.
Yes!
Okay.
That's my bucket list, man. I seen Jimmy Page, before, and I saw Robert Plant solo before, but I've never seen Led Zeppelin. I've seen Pink Floyd. I've seen Black Sabbath. I've seen the Rolling
Look at
Stones.
this guy!
I need Zeppelin. If I get that, I'm good. I saw Guns N' Roses the other day in Las Vegas, and that was unbelievable.
Check you
Because 3.5 hours.
Well, John Bonham's
man, I
dead,
knew
so.
I loved you, man. Favorite movie?
Food. That's always I'm going to say something that everyone will go, really? This your favorite? Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh,
Yeah!
That's a good movie. I'll give you that.
I want to
man.
party. I want to party with Gooby.
Yeah, Indy's a great movie.
We are partying with
Indy,
Gooby
man.
right
Yeah.
now. This is a freaking party, man. I don't know how much time you got, but I might talk to you for 2 hours, man. I can tell everybody else to go home, Goobs. Okay. Give me this. You're driving in your car. Windows are up. All right?
Yeah.
Song comes on that you would be so embarrassed if anybody else knew you were cranking and singing it at the stop sign. Give it to me.
Sister Christian by I Got to Go with My Night Rangers.
Oh, yes!
You know what? I end up, believe it or not, for a couple of years straight, that would be the song I would play before I would drive into the stadium to pitch my game that night.
Get out of here! Are you serious? That's your
Which one?
pump-up
We're not
song?
going to make it, that song?
No, Sister Christian.
Sister Christian?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Motorhead!
Oh, my
That is the greatest walk-up music.
That's
The
awesome.
crazy, before every player had walk-up songs,
Right.
They used to play "Bring It On Home" for me to start my games in Kansas City.
Really?
Led Zeppelin song. I kid you not. It was way before anybody had their walk-up song.
Yeah.
And every
You might
other-
be the
Sister
coolest-
Christian
War,
Night
anything else.
Ranger?
Yeah, you might be
When
the
did that
coolest
start,
dude
by
I've
the way?
ever freaking talked to. When did they start doing the walk-up music?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
When did that
Yeah, I think it's probably about 5, 6, 7 years ago, somewhere around there. But this was way back in the day. Back in the mid to late '80s when they did that for me. I never requested it, but they asked me who's my favorite band, and I said, of course, it's Led Zeppelin. And they didn't ask me what my song would be from Led Zeppelin. They just decided to say, "Bring it on home." In other words, I better win the game or not. Happy with me. So I figured I better go out and do my best.
That's awesome.
Who's your favorite football team in the NFL?
Oh well, my as we would say back in Philly, my Eagles. So
Whoa.
that's-
Hey, you're
You're
Eagles.
flying high.
That's another bucket list for me.
E-A-G-L-E-S.
Everyone always talks about the Red Sox and their fans waiting for a zillion years. Hey, the Eagles have never won a Super Bowl.
Oh,
so
wow.
in my existence, they never won a championship. I think their last championship was 1960. I think it was with
Norm
Chuck
Van
McNair.
Brocklin. Norm
Both
Van
play
Brocklin.
both sides of the ball. So if they win it, I'm all good then at
Yeah,
that point.
Carson Wentz looks
They're
very,
good this
very
year.
good. That team looks really good this year. That's coming from a Cowboys fan, and I can actually sit here and swallow and say
So when
that.
they, I think
Yeah.
they're on the Rams schedule. Are you going to go to that game in the Collie?
Oh, you know what? I'm beyond upset about that. I'm literally just coming back from New York that day, and I was
What?
hoping that they would pick up and move the game to 5 o'clock, then I can make it. I'm
Ooh.
getting in around 1 o'clock, so I'm going to have to literally go. Well, it's close by there anyhow, the LAX
Yeah.
at the Coliseum. So don't be surprised to see me wearing my Ron Jaworski
the old
jersey.
number 7, John.
that's
Baby, that's
awesome.
what I'm talking about.
That's
1980
good stuff.
Super Bowl.
That's good
I'm
stuff,
so
man.
just loving this
That's
whole damn
fantastic.
conversation, man.
Yeah.
What's your dream car, man? I know you can afford just about anything, but what's your dream car?
Well, you know, I still go back to my days driving around. I have my I shouldn't even admit this, but I had my Trans Am, my kit one. I had my black
you had
Trans
the
Am,
black
dude.
Trans Am?
I even had the
Smokey
black
and the Bandit, bro?
hubcap for it too, man. I thought I was Kit there for a while, so I was driving around. But yeah.
Awesome.
Do you think you were Burt
And
Reynolds?
my kids always rumor to say at some point, Dad, you know, down the road when you retire from everything, that we'll have to try to find that car somewhere before you got the road. So that was still my favorite. all
Come
time.
on, G. Did you throw on the glasses like Burt Reynolds? You go Smokey and the Bandit, man? You play a little convoy and run that thing out?
No one can be as cool as Burt, though. So, no.
Can't be. That's awesome.
That is so cool. Hey, a couple of questions. Me and Josh go back and forth over this all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to get back into baseball a little bit. We go back and forth. I think baseball is the only sport where statistics are actually realistic. You can the ball is still the same. That it's 90 feet between the bases. Josh is not with me on this. I think Sandy Koufax could walk on the mound today and still be the most dominant pitcher in baseball. I think Bob Feller could walk out and do those things. A 95, 100-mile-an-hour fastball is the same now as it was in 1930. I think a 300 average, that's why nobody hits 500. A 300 average is very hard to achieve. Would you agree with that the statistics in baseball, because the game really hasn't changed that much other than the designated hitter, are the most reliable when it comes to arguing generations and years past and stars in the past?
Yeah, I think when you measure history, I think baseball is that sport where you can say, well, their guys, are stronger, faster, throw a little bit harder on a more consistent basis, especially because now you have relievers coming in. Back in the day, you had Walter Big Train Johnson throwing arguably the hardest at that point. But he threw 9, 10, 11 innings, whatever it was going to take. Now you have guys throwing 5 or 6, and you have 4 other guys throwing even harder out of the bullpen. So, and I think it came down to even the greatest athlete we've ever seen as far as basketball player, Michael Jordan. It was difficult hitting a baseball. I think hitting a baseball is so hard, regardless of what era you're playing in. That's the numbers you look at. Batting average. For me, I know we're in the whole on-base percentage and all this analytical sabermetrics of the world, but I still think some of the most important things are runs scored and driving in runs. That's how you win a game. If you score one more run than the other team, you win. So to score a run or to drive in a run, for me, is still the things that you really measure baseball players by.
Okay, thank you, because I'm with you on that. I'm totally with you on that. I got one more question. I got just a billion questions for you.
We've had him on almost 25 minutes.
Right,
I don't want to take too much of his time.
Thank you for
here.
staying with us. We're
I
talking
do.
to Mark Gubicza, one of the coolest people on
It's a dream of my
earth.
father. I mean,
Right?
it's really an honor for my father to talk to you.
So
right now. He's very pumped up about
you
it.
can catch him doing all
Josh
the
is
Angel
honored too,
games.
by
He
the
does
way.
he does the color. Jose Moto's a good friend of ours. I threw that in there to try and hook you into
Jose's
calling
great.
into calling, because if Jose would call us, maybe you might. Right?
Well, it's a lock. Anytime we call each other wingmen, he's my wingman.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, Jose's a good friend of the show.
He is.
No, I'm not going to ask that question. I'm not going to go serious on
Okay.
this. Okay. I'm going to go Aaron Judge, man.
Okay.
Aaron Judge. Is he the real deal, or is this just one and done with him? Do you think he's going to pan out and be as good as Mike Trout and do this for many years, or do you think they'll catch up with him and find his weaknesses?
Well, first of all, Mike Trout is the best player in the game by
Yes,
far.
he is.
By far. But Aaron Judge, for me, I love the kid. I love his story. It's an inspirational story how he grew up and how his mom and dad took care of him, put him in position to succeed. He went off to an amazing start through the All-Star game, had the home run derby, struggled, but never changed his expression on his face, and that tells me he's always going to make adjustments, so he's always going to be a great player. And that's what I love about the kid, and he really turned it on late and carried the Yankees into the postseason with his numbers in the month of September. So I have a little long-winded, but basically, yes, he's going to be awesome forever.
Okay, I got one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Shit, I knew he was going to do this.
Well, you guys used to play in the Western Division, and I'm an Angels fan, and obviously you're with the Angels now. You do the TV and post game and all that. I used to hate your team. I'm sorry, but I used to hate your team because there were some epic battles. You guys used to battle, especially in the 70s, with the Angels. Do you like the Houston Astros coming over? Do you like what the league did in changing teams and changing leagues and trying to square this up, or do you think it should have stayed the same? And do you hate the Yankees as all of us do?
Okay, I'll answer when the Astros first came over, I was like, all right, that's pretty good because they were struggling and they had lost 100 games, like 2-3 years in a row. So I figured, okay,
really
that's one of those teams, especially when you're going to play them 18, 19 times, you have a chance to win. And, but that obviously you knew when all the first-round picks they were going to have, first overall picks, that they were going to be good at some point. And they are going to be really good for a number of years.
Yes, they are.
So, I like what they have done. They've got a great bunch of guys, but I firmly believe it's so difficult to repeat. I've been there before. You're pulled in so many different directions. Look at the Chicago Cubs last year. I mean, as good as they were, all of a sudden they barely were able to get to the postseason.
Yeah.
Now, the quick story again with George Brett with the Yankees. Again, growing up in Philly, you're never a big fan of any New York team, especially when you think about the Giants and the Rangers and the Mets and all those teams. But I'll never forget the first day I made it to the big leagues. We're starting off the season. George Brett comes in and pulls a couple of us young guys aside. He goes, "Hey, I don't care if we lose every single game during the regular season as long as we beat the Yankees every single time." So at that point I knew we better beat the Yankees every single time.
That's
so
awesome.
That was the cool thing. And then one thing about baseball right now, I think there's eventually, and I think this would be great for the sport. I know it's going to be tough with the National League and not having a DH, but realigning all baseball where you have a division, a Western division consisting of this is if they have expansion, which I think that may happen with Portland. So you have Seattle, Portland, the Giants, the A's, us, the Dodgers, San Diego and Arizona in one division. How cool would that be?
That would
be
awesome.
the best ever.
That would be crazy.
That would be so cool. Then you have the Midwest, you have the Northeast, and then you have the South. And I think you could really have regionalized. It would certainly save a lot on travel.
Yes.
Because I think when you look at the AL West, it's a little bit even more different than the NL West. Travel is really, really difficult on the players in the AL West because you're really not. We have, you have the A's and Seattle. Even Seattle's still a 3-hour flight, and then you have the Astros and Rangers. It's a lot of traveling as compared to the Dodgers. We have San Diego, you have San Francisco, you got Arizona.
Yeah, I'm with you, Gooby.
You're Gooby. You bring in the boom box to the meetings and you make it happen,
sign the
Goob.
petition,
You blast some Zeppelin, you just bring it on home. All right? Tell them bring it on home. Make it happen.
Can I ask one last question?
Yeah.
Or, I don't know if this will be the last question, but I wanted to ask this.
So cool, man.
Who did you idolize growing up when you were playing ball as a kid? Getting up to the major leagues and stuff. Who were your favorite baseball players of all time growing up?
Good question.
Because I grew up in a pretty good area in Philly, but I loved Manny Trio and I loved Bake McBride for the Phillies back in the day.
Did you try to emulate anybody, like any pitcher? Did you try
you
to
loved his hair. You loved the hair, didn't you?
Probably Jim Palmer was the guy I tried to emulate pitching wise.
Okay.
I mean, it was easy to like Mike Schmidt and Greg Luzinski, and I love those guys, and I got to know them over the years. And Greg Luzinski was one of our coaches in Kansas City when Bob Boone was the manager. I just love Manny Trio. There's something about the way he played the game. He was a former catcher, and
Very
he
cool.
was one of the best second basemen. It was strongest arms I've ever seen, and very, very clutch in the big moments for the Phillies over the years.
Okay, is Larry Boa sane?
God, he was the best. I'd always tell the story. I said I was at the game where he had a grand slam, his only grand slam in his career at the Vet. I think it was against Joe Horner, a former Philly, was with Cincinnati, and we gave him, I'm kidding you not, about a 15-minute standing ovation because he never hit any home runs, and he had one grand slam in his career, and I said I was there. So every time I see him, I always say, "Hey, Mr. Grand Slam," and he would just laugh his head off. That was pretty cool.
In your opinion, greatest baseball player of all time?
Last one.
Whew.
Last one.
Man, that is always that's always one of those real tough ones.
In any era, doesn't matter. In your opinion,
I mean, it's tough for me to ever go against my old teammate George Brett won batting titles for 3 different decades. And he was clutch, and he won a Gold Glove.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of, and always was, and will always be, Derek Jeter fan.
Cool.
But man, I'll tell you, it's tough.
It
really,
is.
That's one of those
There's too
ones
many
where,
to name.
you know, I didn't see Sandy Koufax pitch. I saw
did.
Nolan Ryan pitch, and I saw Roger Clemens pitch. I watched. I think the guy that I really loved to watch play for a long, Ken Griffey Jr. was pretty awesome.
All right,
I tried to
all
be like
right.
him
Good
when I was
question.
growing up.
Hey, can you please call in before the baseball season? We'll have you and Jose call in at different times, but can you check in with us? Because hopefully you had a good time, because we had a great time with you. I'm just
really
so
blessed.
stoked. You know, my wife's gonna just feel this tonight because I got to talk to Gooby. It's just gonna happen. I'm so sorry, baby. You're getting the Gooby combo tonight, baby. It's happening. But can we get you back on before baseball season?
Oh, for sure, guys. I'll tell you what, I've had a blast. I'm trying to remember all these stories, and it came back pretty quickly. You guys are awesome.
Very cool.
I appreciate it, man. Hey, what is your Twitter where we can follow you at?
Mark Gubicza, at Mark Gubicza.
All right, well, I appreciate it. Mark, hey, thank you very much. You really spent more time than I actually thought you would. So thank you very much. And, we'll talk to you before the Angels kick off. So thank you very much for coming on the show. We appreciate it. You have a good night.
You guys got it, man. Anytime. It was a blast, man. I appreciate it.
All right,
Cool.
thank you. Mark
You're the man,
Gubicza.
Gooby.
Thanks.
Wow, that was awesome.
You okay? No?
Wow,
You
that
good?
was awesome.
Are you good? Knock, you're
Dude,
give me some out music real
I'm
quick
serious.
there.
I could have asked him 100 questions
Right? Yeah.
and never been done with it.
Yeah.
You channeled somebody who's actually interviewed people. Like, that was impressive to watch.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
It was.
This is
I
something
was
new. I mean,
like,
this is Knocker was
wow.
prepared.
Thank you very much.
I had one name. Steve Balboni was the only name that I had. And I'm like, yes, he nailed it.
Knocker, what's your song
Because he
coming up
was
right
the
now?
slowest man in the league.
AC/DC.
Yes, he was.
Oh,
Right?
he was slow.
Okay, AC/DC. I'm torn between your mother's and mine's favorite song to dance to and my favorite song from the movie Battleship.
Okay, well, my bladder's about to tear.
Okay.
In this-
I'm about to get a UTI over here, dude.
right.
About to get a urinary tract.
We need a piss bucket.
I'm like Dumb and Dumber when he's trying to get the number when he's lighting on fire. Just give me the damn number!
I'm sorry, honey, but I'm going to go with Thunderstruck, man. I just dig
Thunderstruck?
freaking Thunderstruck. I
All
think
right.
the whole
Fantastic.
layers
Thank
in the
you once
song.
again, Mark Gubicza. We'll be back. NFL Pigskin Pickups coming up right after the break here. Here we go.